Good afternoon and welcome everybody for this webinar on digital discoms moving towards efficient operations. We all know that AT&C losses bleed the discoms very heavily, and we have been seeing this for so many years. With this, in order to overcome this situation, the government had started the Uday program, and C-STEP was involved in in an effort to assess uh, the impact of the Uday program and to see how well it has functioned in making the discoms more profitable than before. We have some results, and we have seen that, of course, it has been effective, but we also have some new insights into the further steps. So I think that is something which the team leader, Ms. Rishu Garg, will cover in a presentation. But I think I'll limit myself uh, uh, to this brief introduction. So, to welcome Mr. Mahendra Jain as the chief guest for this webinar. He is a 1985 batch IS officer of the Karnataka cadre, and he is presently the additional chief secretary at the Karnataka Energy Department. He, of course, also leads the higher education department of Karnataka. Sir, very glad to have you and so happy to see you here. We also have Mr. Srinivas M.R. Srinivas Murthy, who is the ex-chairman of KRC. Mr. Murthy is a retired IS officer of the 1976 batch of Karnataka cadre, and he headed the KERC from March 2010 to March 2015. We also have Mr. Manohar Bevinamara from Chamundeshwari Electricity Supply Corporation Limited. Mr. Manohar is the managing director of CSC. He has earlier held very important positions like GM Tech at corporate office in HESCOM. He was chief engineer electrical in O&M zone in HESCOM with additional charge of chief engineer electrical in O&M zone Belagavi. So also we have sir, welcome to this webinar. We also have DESCOM represented here by Mr. Naga Rajaya, who is the GM Energy Audit, and Mr. Anil Kumar D'Souza, who is the GM IT. We welcome all of you to this webinar. There is a possibility that for some time Mr. Vishal Kapoor, who is the director in Ministry of Power, may be able to join. He said that he has got back-to-back meetings, but he will make every effort if he can drop in for 5 minutes during the panel discussion. So with that, Jay, I'll request you to give the introductory remarks, and so that we can proceed with the webinar. Jay.
Yes, thank you, Abhishek Nath. Thank you for introducing all the esteemed panelists. I will not stand in the way of anyone. All I would like to start by saying that C-STEP has actually been working with the various DISCOMs in Karnataka since 2008. This is actually even before I joined C-STEP, when I was doing my sabbatical from my position in the US and when I had visited India. And that time we were working on IT for the DISCOMs and for the power sector. This was part of a report that then became the RAPDRP. Now, with the current pandemic, what we have seen is that digitization has helped many industries sustain many of their operations going forward. It has been a long-lived endeavor to continue to make sure that our discoms stay viable, stay positive, and we can see that there are a lot of initiatives that all the discoms are taking. However, there are a lot of more things that can be done to ensure this long-term sustainability, and so that we make sure that the power sector continues to stay viable and provide us. After all, energy is required for development, it's required for our activities. Now, in the last few years, we have been working on various government initiatives that are trying to help government on their initiatives of smart metering, looking at integration of technologies, even things like electric vehicles, integrating of rooftop PV, a tool that we released fairly recently, and also now getting into the aspects of energy accounting and revenue accountability. Now, these are all crucial aspects that have to be worked on simultaneously. I'm very proud to see the team working on this, and I think I'm very happy to hear that C-STEP is now going to be talking about the tool, the FRAMES tool, the feeder-wise revenue analysis monitoring tool. And I would like to see more of these types of efforts, and I'm very happy to say that BESCOM, CESC, and other utilities in Karnataka are the trailblazers for this type of activity for the entire country. And we see this as just the first step towards that. So without further ado, I would thank you all very much for being part of this exercise. As I always say in most of my work, this is just the beginning. We are just showing the world what it is about. How do we take it forward is more important. So without further ado, thank you very much and welcome you all to this webinar. I hope we can take this forward and showcase C-STEP as being the Karnataka as being the exemplar for well-run utilities. So Abhishek, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. For that introductory remark for the webinar. Sir, Shri Mahenjan, sir, we will request you for your chief guest address for this webinar.
Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to be part of this webinar, especially in the presence of luminaries such as Mr. Srinivas Murthy and Mr. Asundi and all of you. I think it's very, very relevant that we are discussing digitalization as a mode of, as a tool for improving efficiencies in discoms. As we all know, UDAY was one of the early initiatives in this regard, where improving operational efficiencies, reduction in the cost of power, reduction even in the interest cost of discoms, and improving the financial discipline, etc., were all important components of. There were some 12 parameters under UDAY, and the main target of UDAY was to reduce the AT&C losses in quantified terms from around 21% in the country by about 6% and bring it down to 15%. I think overall in the nation, what we achieved was about 18.2%. But in Karnataka, because of the efforts of the Energy Department and the Regulatory Commission, which was headed by Mr. Srinivas Murthy for 5 long years, we have been able to bring the AT&C losses down to almost below 15%. But I mean, there's no reason for complacency. We still need to do a lot more, and there is a lot of scope for these losses. And I think digitalization and Internet of Things and geoanalytics, etc., will help a great deal in this regard. I think what is also needed is that we need to reduce the cost of power. That has been increasing steadily. Because increase in revenue through tariff measures might be a little difficult, because as it is in Karnataka, the tariffs are fairly high. The industry is constantly complaining that the cost of power in Karnataka is much higher than many other states, and that has become a deterrent for industries to come to Karnataka. So what we can do is to reduce the cost of power, and I mean there are some deep-rooted issues there. The power purchase cost has been increasing largely because of the long-standing power purchase agreements that we have with various generators, both in the generators from the central government, in the state, and especially the independent power producers. For instance, in solar, we still have PPAs where we are paying close to 10 rupees per unit. So that has become an issue, and especially with thermal power, now that Karnataka has so much of renewable energy. I don't know, most of you would be aware of it, but if you include major hydro, then 63% of our installed capacity in the state comes from renewable sector. So 50% just solar and wind and cogeneration and so on. Another 13% which comes from hydel, major hydel, and that for all practical purposes is a renewable source. So if you include that, then the total installed capacity is almost 63%. Even in terms of consumption, I mean actual generation, if you see, 46.5% of the energy that we consume comes from renewable sources. Now what that has led to is that the thermal generation that we have, that has become costlier because we're using less and less of that. Like during monsoons, we have a lot of wind generation during most of the year, except for maybe some months during the monsoon. Even the solar generation is very high. We have the world's largest solar park in Karnataka. The solar generation is constantly increasing, and therefore we are having to either shut down our thermal resources or ramp them down considerably. There are times when virtually none of the thermal plants are working at full capacity. Most of them are shut down. Some of them because of the regulation, not because we need that power, but because of regulation and the agreements that we have to keep them at a minimum technical bar. And yet we have to pay the fixed charges for that energy, regardless of whether we are scheduling that energy or not. We are having to pay fixed charges, which are considerable. I mean, we pay almost 7,000 crores per annum as fixed charges, of which nearly half of it, a little over 3,000 crores, is for energy that we have not consumed at all, we have not used at all, but we have to pay those fixed charges. Now that is leading to increase in the cost of power. Also, the late payment surcharge, the interest that the distribution companies have to pay to the generators for delay in payment is at an archaic 18%. The bank rates have steadily been coming down. So there's no reason why the late payment surcharge should be as high as 18%, and therefore many DISCOMs which do not have sufficient consumer base of high paying consumers like industries or commercial establishments or large complexes and so on, like in HESCOM or in GESCOM, where the agricultural consumption is even higher than the other paying consumers. There the revenues, I mean, they're not in a position to pay their dues in time, and therefore they have to pay huge interest rates also. So this whole sector, I mean, in terms of financial structures also, it needs a lot of restructuring besides digitalization and so on. So I think that's something which we should not lose sight of when we are talking about digitalization. Those are as important, and probably if those can be fixed, the efficiencies can be improved considerably in a very short span of time. Of course, we need to reduce commercial losses, which can happen through digitalization, through smart meters and smart grids and so on. We need accurate meters. We need the meter reading, which is accurate. In this day and age, it's rather surprising that people still have to go and read the meters, and there can be human errors and so on. So these are the areas where we need to work, and I'm glad that CSTEP has taken this study on what is happening to digitalization. I mean, in terms of, we've achieved a lot also in digitalization. For instance, if you look at the transactions, digital transactions, I think annually almost 13 crore transactions in all ESCOMs put together are in digital form. The billing efficiency in the Uday period has gone up. The collection efficiency has gone up. It has exceeded the targets which were set in Uday program. The ACS, the average cost of supply and the average revenue, that gap, unfortunately, we have not been able to reduce, but largely because of the reasons which I just explained a little while ago. So yes, we need to identify the lacunae, we need to identify the discrepancies, and new digital technologies like geoanalytics, the smart meters, the smart grid, Internet of Things also, because I mean we have so much data that proper data mining and arriving at good decisions, which will help increase the efficiency and reduce the losses. So these are the applications which are available in through the digital intervention, and the capacities of DISCOMs in this area understandably are limited, and therefore an organization such as CSTEP, when it steps forward and comes out with proposals, suggestions, applications, it's always most welcome. So thank you for organizing this webinar. Thank you for taking this initiative. And again, it's a pleasure to be with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your message. Before we proceed with the video on CSTEP study, sir, as you just pointed that the thermal power generation in Karnataka has to be tuned down and has to be ramped down, basically because of higher renewable energy. So it leads to various issues, and I like to just inform you here that we are also currently involved in studying that aspect. And once we are through with the study, we will try to come over and present the findings to you at some point in very near future. Can we, Rishu, can we start the short video?
Yes, sir. We can play the video now. So this is based on the study that we conducted for 2 DISCOMs in Karnataka. So we have tried to summarize the study results and the findings into a short video, which we are going to play now.
Electricity distribution companies are known as the weakest link in India's electricity supply chain. With revenue losses close to Rs 50,000 crore in 2018-19, they are facing a severe crisis. This does not bode well for the sector. The Government of India has intervened many times to save DISCOMs from financial crisis. The Ujjwal DISCOM Assurance Yojana, launched in 2015, was such a move. The scheme was an attempt to improve the operational and financial efficiency of state-owned DISCOMs. It also aimed to reduce the aggregate technical and commercial losses in DISCOMs to 15% and eliminate the revenue gap. 27 states and 5 union territories signed up for improving the financial performance of their DISCOMs. In the last 5 years alone, the Uday scheme has helped DISCOMs reduce losses from 22% to 18% and save Rs 9,000 crore. But our DISCOMs still have a long way to go to attain Uday targets, as well as reach the international standard of just 4% losses. So, where are we going wrong?
C-STEP tried to uncover the challenges that DISCOM face. We spoke to officials at two DISCOMs in Karnataka, SESC and BESCOM, and conducted a field survey in 9 districts to get to the bottom of the problem. This exercise was a revelation. To begin with, we found that many transformers were not maintained properly. The guidelines of the Central Electricity Authority were also not being followed. Plants were growing over the distribution transformers, and meters were placed at an inaccessible heights. Many transformers posed a health hazard for both meter readers and citizens. Also, many of them were not metered, and when they were, often the meters didn't work. We also found that though the total extent of losses was known to DISCOMs, they had not segregated them into specific categories. Some of these losses were attributed to free electricity consumption by the agriculture sector and poor revenue collection. There was no way to pin down the losses to technical issues or poor billing and collection. Another critical issue was the lack of revenue accountability at the feeder level. Though the feeder managers were responsible for the daily operations, they were not accountable for realizing the revenue in line with the energy input at the feeder level.
Currently, DISCOMs use a top down approach, but many of these issues can be addressed with a bottom up approach using digital technology. To enable the segregation of losses, C-STEP developed a geographical information system based energy auditing tool. This tool accurately maps feeders with distribution transformers and consumers and helps identify loss making areas. It helps assess losses scientifically and ascribe them to the right issue technical, billing, or collection. The tool also integrates feeder level data into a single platform for better planning. To improve revenue accountability, a bottom up management approach is required. Keeping this in mind, C-STEP developed a framework called Feeder Wise Revenue Analysis and Monitoring of Energy Sales, or FRAMES, to make feeder managers more accountable. Aware of the ground realities, feeder managers are better equipped to balance operations with revenues. Making them accountable is a simple step, requiring minimal changes to the current hierarchy. However, this can have huge implications in improving electricity distribution and plugging the losses. According to our estimates, implementing frames can help DISCOMs reduce AT&C losses by 2 to 3%. For the two DISCOMs we studied, this translates to a saving of 700 crore rupees per annum. With many DISCOMs across India facing similar challenges, frames could evolve into a nationwide solution. In the face of the current pandemic, many industries have gone digital with their operations and management. Digitalization can also help DISCOMs sustain in the long run. While India has made tremendous strides in electrification, we still need to improve the quality and reliability of electricity supply. DISCOMs need to be at the center of these efforts. C-STEP's scientific approach could propel DISCOMs in the right direction by streamlining operations and improving their finances.
Thank you. Thank you. Rishu, can we go ahead with the presentation?
Yes, sir. Thanks, everybody. Hope you enjoyed watching the video. The detailed report for this study is also available on our website. So, moving on with the agenda, I would like to demonstrate the tools and the findings of this study in a little more detail. So, as we all are aware that Indian distribution sector was mired in losses in 2015 with the AT&C losses of around 21.2%. So with the launch of Ujjwal Discom Assurance Yojana, there has been a significant improvement in the losses to 18.7%. but still there are a lot of challenges that remain, and some of these can be attributed to the gap between the cost supply and revenue recovered, and inefficiencies in the energy accounting, billing and collection. And the last one could be the tariff not being reflective of the cost. So in order to understand these issues in more detail and uncover the ground level challenges, CSTAC initiated this study to analyze the AT&C loss calculation methodology, or segregation of losses into technical and commercial losses, and implementing a plan of commercial accountability at feeder level. So these are some of the research ideas that we wanted to understand during this study. So we did a extensive field survey and analysis in two DISCOMs, which is CESC and BESCOM. We covered around 9 districts in these two DISCOMs. 34 feeders and 1400 DTs were surveyed on month-on-month basis for meeting data's physical infrastructure and also AT&C losses. So during the survey, we found issues with AT&C losses both at the measurement and the management level. So like we all have heard this phrase of that if you can't measure, you can't manage it. So the same aptly applies to AT&C losses also. So in terms of measurement of AT&C losses, there were some issues that we identified. There were lack of feeder to DT consumer tagging. There was no clear demarcation of how many consumers are connected to a DT and from DT to feeder. There were issues related with DT metering, and we could see a lot of defective meters and inaccurate data on the number of DTs connected to a feeder. Operation and maintenance issues related to physical infrastructure of the distribution transformers, feeder line, LT lines, and other such issues were also identified. The one major issue in the measurement of AT&C losses was the segregation of losses into technical and commercial issues. So the technical issues in a system is evident when we are transferring from feeder to the consumer level. There are some technical losses that happen in the network, but segregating this entire losses into whether it is evident technical losses or it is because of the inefficiencies at billing and collection level is something that we were trying to uncover in this study. Then coming to the management of losses, which can be done by
Hello.
having an
It is bit audio is not clarity. Can you check? Can you be a bit loud? That's
that. Can you guys hear me now clearly?
Yeah, it's much better. Please proceed.
yes.
Yeah, sorry for the disturbance. So in terms of revenue accountability, we again, there were issues related to poor revenue collection and ineffective billing. Then one major issue is of when there is a revenue recovery at the feeder level, whether feeder manager is commensurating that revenue recovery to the input energy that has been supplied to it. That is very important for a feeder manager to understand that it has recovered the entire cost of supply that it has received. And lastly, of the misallocation of sales. So in terms of when we were going through the energy audit reports, we found that there were a lot of sales that were given under unaccounted consumer categories. So these kind of accountability issues can be a deterrent for accurate measurement and management of AT&C losses. So in order to combat these issues, so we have come up with
ರಾಜೇಶ್
we have
ಅವರ ಹೇಳಿ ಬರ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ.
We have come up with the two framework and tools. One is the GIS based energy audit tool for the for accurate measurement of losses, and another is feeder wise revenue analysis and monitoring of energy sales, or we can call it as frames as well, for the management of losses or for increasing revenue accountability. So I'll just give a brief demo of these So this is a energy audit tool that we have developed. So in this, one major thing is that the entire feeder profile is available, is visualized on the map. So we have the feeder along with the number of DTs connected to it. And from the DTs, we can know how many consumers are connected to each DT. With that, we also have the capacity of the DTs connected to it. Then we can also look at the entire profile in terms of what is the tariff wise installations connected to the feeder category, and what is their annual consumption, what is the energy input to the feeder, what are the overall AT&C losses seen at the feeder level, and collection efficiencies. So another thing that the tool does is segregate the losses into technical and commercial losses. So this is the technical losses is calculated based on the technical parameters that are received at the feeder from line length, the type of conductor, and the peak load that the feeder experiences. On those basis, the technical losses are calculated and then segregated it for the from the overall losses to have commercial loss aspect. Then the important thing that we can do with the tool is DT wise energy audit. So as KERC has also mandated DT wise energy audit for the sector. So this tool will help in accurately identifying issues if there are any with the DT level energy audit. So I'm just so this is a DT that we are looking at. So it will provide details of what are the losses that are seen in this DT. So if you see, there is a DT consumption which is recorded from its meter, and the number of consumers connected to this DT will give the total energy sold for each of the DT, which help in calculating the losses. So if you see, there are a lot of discrepancies in the loss calculation. So the idea of this tool is that this will get easily noticed by the DISCOM officials, and then they can take corrective actions for the same. This will also help in giving the energy consumption at DT level. It will have the billing consumption details for each of the consumer, the number of consumers connected to the DT. So again, if we look at a consumer level details, so in this consumer, we can see that there has been a consistent billing for all the other months, but there has been a quite high billing done in the December month.
So again, this is a kind of identifying these issues and taking corrective and action against the same. Similarly, if there are other consumers, then we can look at the build consumption of these consumers and know the issues at this level. Coming back to the dashboard, the one most important thing that we found when during our survey was that there were issues in the energy accounting of the entire system whenever there is a fault occurring at the feeder level. So because of the fault, there were DTs that were transferred to the other line, but that doesn't get accounted in the entire system. So in this, we are trying to include that feature as well, which is a changeover feature is what we are calling it. Then in this, we can select the number of DTs which are getting transferred to the other line. Once that is selected, this will give a change of the revised energy audit for the feeder for the DTs which are only connected to it, and the ones which are transferred will get accounted in the next feeder. So if you look at the red colored feeder, red colored DTs, these are the DTs which has been transferred. The energy, we will go back to the same energy audit system once we reset the restore the settings. The last thing that we wanted to include as part of this tool was the identification of the areas where collection efficiency is low. So there is a DT wise payment pattern. So so if you look at the highlighted DTs over here in blue, light blue color, these are the DTs where we know that the collection efficiency is below 90%. So again, this is just to notify the officials so that they are aware in the entire network where they have to make more effort for revenue recovery. The tool will also help us in better network planning. So if you look at the suppose this DT is shown over here, it is connected to only one consumer. So this can be used for network planning as well. If in this area the load is increasing, then the feeder manager will be able to know that which DT has the capacity for more consumers to be, or for more load to be connected to it. So these are some of the features of this tool. Now if we will now go to the frames model. This is the feed for the increasing revenue accountability in the network. So here we have tried to develop a methodology to set a target for the feeder manager in terms of revenue that it has to earn. So this target revenue is set based on two parameters. One is the average billing rate at the feeder, and the allowable losses in the feeder. Now this average billing rate can also be adjusted with the changes in the tariff that has been approved by the commission. So once on year basis, once we have the any increase in tariff or any changes in the tariff, the ABR will be able to reflect those. So based on these two parameters of ABR and feeder losses, we have the target revenue per unit of input energy. Now this TRI can be compared with the actual revenue that the feeder manager receive on month. So if there are any deviations from the target revenue that has been set,
that will again let the feeder manager know whether it is because of the low billing or collection, or it is because of the technical losses, the allowable losses in the system. This can also help the feeder manager to set a trajectory for its to reduce its losses. So if we uh, add another number in the feeder loss, let us say the feeder manager wants to reduce its feeder losses to 9%. So with that, it will help him to get more revenue and maximize his profit for that feeder, which will help him to attain a benchmark loss levels as well. So these are the two methodologies that we wanted to demonstrate. I'll go to the slide. So just summarizing the methodologies and the tools that we have demonstrated. So in the energy audit tool, the basic idea is that it would avoid manual interventions for any and avoid any errors due to manual entry. And the officials will have a consolidated feeder profile detail, and they can visualize it in at one go. The segregation will also help them to understand the and ascribe the overall losses to the right issue. And for frames, the idea is to have a financial discipline inculcated at the feeder manager level. So this would incentivize field officials for the commercial revenue accountability of their feeder under their jurisdiction. And the best part is that it doesn't require any change in the administrative setup. The right now the section officers can be made accountable and responsible for each of their feeders and their earning revenue from them. And this can be used as a decision making tool once that can be visualized by the top management at the corporate office level. And they can take appropriate measures for improving the financial health. So with that, we come to the agricultural feeder study. So we all know agricultural sector is an important component of the entire distribution sector, and it also plays a very big role in the AT&C loss calculation. So Karnataka is also no different, and in Karnataka, the 36% of the total electricity consumption comes from agricultural sector. And this agricultural supply is provided free of cost by discoms, and the amount is claimed from through subsidy from state government. But in the last 6 years, we have seen that there has been quite a humongous increase in the subsidy component, around 85%. So, which has been again attributed to the increase in the number of IP set in Karnataka because of various other drought issues and stuff like that. But the still when we did this survey and study for this agricultural feeder, we found that there was lack of data on the accurate number of IP sets connected to a feeder, and there were still a lot of unauthorized IP sets in the system. And the subsidy component that is provided to the discom is based on the assumption that it should not be the pump capacity should be 10 HP. So there is again no methodology to verify the pump capacity that has been used by the consumer. So what we are recommending is that there should be a more scientific approach to calculating the agricultural consumption in the system. first thing that can be done is the irrigation pump set indexing. Like we have the consumer indexing from feeder to DT to the other consumer categories. Similarly, for each IP set, it should be connected back to the DTs and the feeders. And there should be an identification of the active and inactive IP sets. The subsidy claims or the agricultural electricity consumption should be based only on the active IP sets which are drawing power from the grid. And in terms of calculating the losses for the agricultural feeder, there could be a load flow studies to have an estimate of the losses in the system. So again, we've tried to develop the visualization map for the one agricultural feeder that we studied. So we were provided the data of this feeder with 289 IP sets. However, when we surveyed the entire feeder, we found only 277, and out of which only 188 were the active IP sets. So we have tried to put that into a visualization map with these are the DTs connected to the feeder. So there are total 77 DTs. Each of the DT will give you details on what is the DT code, the capacity, and whether the meter status is good, or there are no meters connected to the DTs, or they are in good condition or not. So again, for each of the DT, we have also mapped the IP sets connected to it. So if you see, this is one DT which has around 8 IP sets. Now out of those 8 IP sets, 5 are only active, and inactive IP sets are the ones which are not connected to the grid at this point of time. So this is something that needs to be done when we are talking of a agricultural electricity consumption, and which plays a huge role in the overall AT&C loss calculation as well. So with this, I come to the end of my presentation. While concluding, I would just want to add that Karnataka is way ahead of many states in terms of having their system in place, having the metering status, consumers being more prompt in their billing and collection. And there are very low instances of theft or hooking. So these are some of the positives that we have seen in Karnataka discoms. But having said that, we would also like to add that if we want to achieve the loss reduction and be a pioneer in the loss reduction trajectory, reach a less than 10% level of losses, some of these initiatives, some of these measures suggested by CSTEP could be used, could be implemented in the system, and this could pave the way for Karnataka and many other discoms also in the country for loss reduction and also the performance enhancement of their discoms. So with this, I would just like to conclude, and I hope this would move into a more discussion, and we will be able to achieve much better, much reduced losses in the system going forward. So I would like to now hand it over to Mr. Abhishek Nath for the panel discussion, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Rishu. It was a lot of hard work by the team which did this study, and also came up with the two software tools, basically the GIS energy audit tool and the frames. And during the survey, two of our young colleagues have actually walked along the whole feeders and gone to each and every location, which is kilometers and kilometers. So I think one very nice thing that I find in this study, which Rishu just now presented, is that we went to the ground, looked at the real situation, and then on the basis of that hard groundwork, we are trying to suggest something which can possibly have a policy impact. So we can, with the permission of the chair, we can come to the panel discussion. We have on the panel. I've already introduced the panelists, but Rishu, can we present that slide where the questions are?
Yes, sir.
So the first, we have got a number of questions, and I like to move from one panel member to the other one by one, so that we can get everyone's views on all of these questions, or maybe not, if not all, depending on your perspective, you can answer maybe less than that. So the 5 questions that we have pointed out is: how do you see the role of digitalization in DISCOM operations? We have presented our study. We have come up with an idea, but it is your opinion and that we are looking for, and we want to bank on your vast experience to answer these questions. Then, what are the challenges which are faced by the DISCOMs? It could be, we have audited a few feeders, we have come up with tools, but you have seen much more than that, and you have seen a wider ambit of things. So the question to the panel will be: what are the challenges which are faced by DISCOM for digitalization? Then how to accelerate the process? Then another important question, which is related to the idea of the frames that we have produced, we have suggested, is what can be done to improve revenue accountability at the operational level. Frames is one idea, but based on, you can also give your opinion on the tool that we have suggested, or whatever other, in course of your vast experience, you have seen things which work, that can be talked about. And then finally, keeping in view the recent things about privatization of the distribution companies, what are the key areas where it can show results? It cannot be, I mean, I will not like to preempt the answer, but I just want to say that it's an open question, in the sense that it can be both ways, where privatization could give results, where it may not give results. So let me turn to you, sir, Mr. Mahenjan. Sir, would you like to give your opinion on this? I think he just...
Abhishek, he had another meeting, so he had to leave. So I think the panelists can definitely answer this. I think he made a statement at the beginning, so I think the panelists can go ahead with this now.
Sir, Mr. Srinivas Multi, sir, I'll draw your attention to these questions. I think they'll be on your screen. So can you answer for the benefit of the audience, and definitely for the benefit of us and the project team, some of things based on your vast experience?
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Abhishek Nath. And first of all, let me say that C-STEP has done a lot of good work, as you said, a lot of hard work to put together a number of relevant facts. So far as your questions are concerned, I would consider the fourth question to be the most important one. What can be done to improve revenue, I would say realization at operational level? How can we realize more revenue at the operational level? Accounting is another thing. Accountability is attributing responsibility to somebody. But the basic objective is what can be done to improve revenue realization at the operational level. Digitization could be one way of doing this. Frames could be another way of doing this. So I would therefore start with what can be done to improve revenue realization at the operational level. I have had the benefit of going through C-STEP papers on the subject, and I know as of today, there are some leaks in the revenue. That's how we call them AT&C losses. There are technical losses, there are commercial losses. Technical losses are well known, line losses and related issues. But commercial losses are the ones which really should be tackled by Karnataka DISCOMs on priority basis. Now, where are the commercial losses? There are a number of ways you are losing a lot of money. Number one is you do not know in each feeder what exactly is the amount of power supplied. Now, this is recorded at the substation level. And if you have injected, let's say, 1 million units in a feeder, at the end of the month, how much of energy has been billed for? Have you billed for 1 million units? You can't, obviously. There will be some line losses in between. Have you billed for 9 lakh units or 8 lakh units? Then rest is lost. So what is the acceptable norm for you? If you start at the substation feeder meter and then ask all your section officers to give you the account of how much have you billed for all the DTCs, all the consumers under this feeder. You know what is the loss exactly at the end of the month or at the end of second month or third month, whatever periodicity you choose. That is not happening. The accounts people do not take into account, do not even compare the input energy into a feeder and the amount of energy that has been billed, that has been taken as consumed. This is the first element of what Rishu mentioned as frames. Feeder-wise revenue, accounting and management of energy sales. You start there. When I was in KERC, and I'm not going to talk about that because I was there in KERC only, subsequent members and chairman of the commission also have continued this. Why don't you meter every DTC? So if a feeder has got 50 DTCs, all the 50 DTCs can be measured, can be metered, and record the consumption on all the 50 supply made from all the 50 DTCs, and then see if you find a lot of difference between the feeder input energy and the ultimately billed energy, then you go on comparing what is the energy supplied through one DTC and what is the consumer billing done under that DTC to the connections served by that DTC. If you compare, you know which DTC's network is losing a lot of money. It may not be, usually it is not on account of technical problems, usually on account of your Grama Vidyut Pratinidhi not billing correctly. Very often, I mean, I have in SSK area and BESCOM area, I have personally checked in some of these cases. Grama Vidyut Pratinidhis, they have very many reasons why they do not want to give you accurate picture of what is the energy consumed. Either it is because it's a friend's house, they do not want to record it, or they have some reason for not recording properly from a businessman's premises, whatever it is. As a result, this is also found out in the study of CSTEP. If you go through the paper, you will find that about 13 or 14% of the meters are not recorded properly. The GVP's record of consumption and CSTEP's own record of consumption, they don't tally, which means somebody who is being paid by you to record the consumption is causing losses to you. This is the first thing. Now, one can always go back on the go back for digital solutions, like you can have, of course, automatic meter readers, automatic readers and meters, digital meters which will be able to transmit data to you so that you don't need to have a Gram Vidyut Pratinidhi going and recording incorrect things every month. But that is sometime, that may take some time. Till that time happens, is it not possible for every single section officer to check 10% of meters every month or 5% of meters every month? Just check and take action against the Gram Vidyut Pratinidhi. That is not being done. So we are losing a lot of money in that. The second reason why you are losing a lot of money is whatever consumption is done by irrigation pump sets is assessed consumption. There are no meters for irrigation pump sets. The KERC said, okay, you don't have meters for irrigation pump sets, fine. You segregate the agricultural pump sets load, have a separate feeder, so you know exactly how much you have supplied to the agriculture sector, and you can claim subsidy from the government for that free supply. But CSTEP's own study has found that you don't even know, you don't even record exactly how many pump sets are there on a feeder. You don't even record exactly how many DTCs are there on a feeder. And if you don't even record the energy supplied at the substation level, feeder input level, then you just assume something has been taken. Even where you have implemented this NJY and you are able to give 24 hours power supply to villages, if there is a huge loss in a particular feeder, they give the explanation that, oh, there are some pump sets unauthorizedly connected. The DISCOMs have spent thousands of crores of rupees for segregating agriculture feeders. And now we come up with an excuse that even though it is not an agriculture feeder, there are people who are tapping for agriculture. That can be easily controlled because such violations are few and far between. Not like the olden days when there were thousands and thousands of pump sets which were unauthorizedly tapping things. Now, having segregated the agriculture feeders after so much of expenditure, if there are one or two violations here and there, you should quickly disconnect those things and provide alternative line for them to draw power from agriculture feeder only and segregate them. So that if you isolate what is the agriculture consumption, one, And if you are able to exactly determine what is the actual consumption with reference to the input energy at the feeder level, you have got a handle on the losses. Wherever your losses are more than 10% or 12%, it should be possible for you people to investigate, why do we have these losses? Is it because the network is very poor? The low voltage line is very long in a particular section? Just check and rectify that. So this kind of, or whether the GVPs or somebody else, or whether the meters are defective. Very often meters are non-functional or defective. So these are the two important things. You must first have, because you have segregated agricultural consumption, determine agricultural consumption perfectly. Because you have got input energy being recorded at the feeder origin level, you should be able to compare the actual billing with the input energy. If you are able to do this, for this, what Rishu's frames C-step suggests by way of frame C is that if there is a feeder, you make one person responsible as the feeder manager. He may be your section officer, assistant engineer, whoever it is. One person is responsible. I have received during the last 1 month 1 million units in this feeder. I have made sure that billing has taken place for 9 lakh units. And if there is a shortfall, if he is able to produce bills only for 7 lakh units instead of 9, you should hold him accountable for that. This is something which doesn't call for any expensive technology, but just making one person responsible for this. Now, Rishu also mentioned that sometimes in a particular area, energy is received not from one feeder, but when there is a failure, a second feeder comes in, that gives the. It is easy to have boundary level meters where a second feeder comes in. There can be a meter, and there can be, I don't have to explain this process to engineers because they know how to compute electrical energy supplied in a particular area. So the first and foremost thing is we must have this kind of measure done, accountability system put in place at the lowest level. There is no point in blaming the executive engineer for high losses, blaming the superintending engineer, chief engineer, or even the managing director for high AT&C losses. These things will have to start. Losses are taking place below the feeder level. So you must start from the feeder level to the consumer level. Wherever the losses are, you must plug those things. Now, if you are able to go for digitalization, as C-step has proposed, you have GIS-based system where you map all the DTCs and you have automatic meter reading facility. That's excellent. That cuts out a lot of the uncertainty involved, inaccuracy involved in metering and realizing revenue. This is the way to bring down AT&C losses. Mr. Mahendra Jain also raised the question of high cost of energy and the losses because of the fixed charges that they have to pay for keeping thermal units idle. That's a slightly different subject, but there are solutions to that as well. If you are getting 45 or 46% of all your energy from renewables, I know that renewables includes more than 25% of hydro. And that hydro, you are getting it less than 1 rupee per unit. Something like out of the 70,000 million units of energy that you draw all the DISCOMs together, something like 16,000 million units, about 20% comes from the hydro projects, hydro reservoirs, which have no irrigation link. So that is at less than 1 rupee. The remaining 25% of renewable energy, I know is coming at 5 rupees plus, because you have entered into PPAs at 6 rupees plus for solar energy. When the solar prices were going down, you were made to sign PPAs. Okay, whatever it is, fine. The rest of the renewable energy, that's mini hydel, and also the sugar factories which supply, cogen energy. The rest of that comes at something like average of 4 rupees 50 paisa or 4 rupees. In fact, we had fixed wind energy tariff at 450, but it has been reduced subsequently to 3 rupees 70 paisa. So if you take all this 46% of renewable energy together, hydel and other renewables, the average purchase cost will not be more than 4 rupees. Then it comes to thermal. Thermal, you are paying 7,000 crores, as Mr. Mahendra Jain said, of fixed charges. If you are paying 7,000 crores of fixed charges for, you're also drawing energy of something like, some 35,000 or 40,000 million units from thermal sources. And this gets distributed at the rate of something like 2 rupees per kilowatt hour or less per unit. So I do not think Karnataka really is having such a major problem if you know how to manage your, power purchase policies and also your revenue recovery practices. And I see tariff orders issued by KERC every year, even after I left the KERC, and I see tariff going up every year. And I think, you have a great opportunity of being able to reduce this, because your energy losses are reported to be different figures. Every ESCOM 1 year says my losses are 13%. Another year it comes down to, it goes up to 14%. One more year it comes down to 12%. KERC says, I don't believe your figures. This is the problem. That only shows that DISCOMs do not themselves know what exactly are the AT&C losses, or DISCOMs have not measured or determined exactly what are the AT&C losses. So my request to DISCOMs, all the colleagues there, is first put together sound practices to determine, to measure AT&C losses accurately. If you measure it, you will be able to reduce it, because you have the best of distribution network in the entire country, to the best of my knowledge. You are showing 36% of the 38% actually of total energy consumed in the agriculture sector. This is the highest for any state in the country. No other state is using 38% of energy for agriculture. Now, how much of that is actually AT&C losses shown in as an energy consumption by IPsets? I do not know. So if you are able to first measure your energy losses accurately, then you will be able to reduce this. If you reduce, let's say, even 1% of energy losses every year, 1% means about 700, 800 crores. If you are able to reduce it by 2%, you will be able to save 1,400 crores. If you are able to bring down 1,400 crores losses, every utility is making a profit. Because at the national level also, they say the gap between the revenue realized and the cost of supply is some 27% latest. Your gap will also be probably in the range of 25%, 27 paise, sorry, 25 paise or 30 paise. And that can be easily recovered if you are able to reduce your losses even by 2%. And 2% reduction is something all of you, all the ESCOMs in Karnataka are perfectly capable of doing. Once upon a time, we used to report 36% losses. Today, we are reporting 14%. So what is 2% reduction for us? And most advanced countries have less than 7 or 8% distribution losses. And all of them, I know there is a superior network, distribution network in advanced countries. But our network need not be so bad that against their 6 or 7% losses, we have 20% losses. It can be 10%. It can be 12% at the most. It cannot be more than that. So I think it is possible now that the management representatives of both SESC and BESCOM are together, they can carry this message. And if you adopt the simple formula that CSTEP is proposing, you will be able to reduce losses even within this financial year itself. I think I would like to stop here and let other panelists give their views. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure listening to you. I think the three takeaways that I had from what you said was, the first is something like frames accountability at the, I mean, that is probably the first step where technology intervention is not required, only accountability is required. The second stage that you talked about where technology intervention can be done, something like the GIS tool that we have proposed. And the third, yeah.
At the ETC level, at least you can have remotely read meters. Initially, I think they already have the funds for that, because DTC meters cannot be read easily because they are located at a height and all kinds of problems. So if they have digital meters which can transmit the readings, that will automatically, that will be a good step. Sorry to have interrupted. Please go ahead, Mr. Nath.
No. And the third thing I wanted to talk about was your encouraging remark that if we have brought it down from 36% to 14%, there's no reason why we cannot go 2-3% better. We can't do better. So having a very good comprehensive answer to the fourth question, what can be done to improve revenue accountability? I'll request Mr. Bevinamara to enlighten us with his experience. Sir, you can answer whichever question you want to, but I look forward to more on the first three, the role of digitalization that you see. What are the challenges faced by DISCOMs for digitalization? That is very pertinent, and how to accelerate the process. Over to you, Manohar sir.
Yeah, okay, good afternoon to everybody. First, I thank CSTEP for taking the study in the SESC area during your study previously, and for giving the suggestions also to SESC as well as to all the DISCOMs in Karnataka. You have proposed some steps to be taken for improving the AT&C losses. And at the first, I would like to say AT&C loss. It's better to call it. It's not at all a loss. The technical loss will be a loss, whereas the commercial efficiency we take, instead of calling it as AT&C loss, it's better to call it as ATL, aggregate of technical loss and commercial efficiency. That should be, it should be called like because no, the billing efficiency or billing is not properly done means that so many units are not accounted properly in that month, whereas the units will be counted in the other months also, but there will not be any loss in loss or the collection also. If there is a shortfall in collection, so this will be done in the coming months also. So it is better we call this as efficiency itself instead of calling it as a loss, and that is the first thing. But in this SESC area, many of the steps proposed by the CSTEP were actually helpful for us also in bringing down the AT&C loss. Just see what was the AT&C loss when the company was formed in the year 2005. At the beginning, the 2005, the AT&C loss was 42.51%. Now it is 14.45%. And the distribution loss at the beginning in the 2005 was 27.03%. Now it is 11.12%. And many of the things have already taken place, and the improvements are also being implemented in the CESC area. See, most of the installations, the domestic installations, the commercial installations, and the multi-power, the MP installations, the photo billing is being implemented, already implemented in the CESC area. And 25,000 of the installations, the smart meters are also installed in the CESC area. See, the billing is done at the end of the month, and it is also human errorless, because no, the data are taken from the meters, and the billings are done, and the bills are issued, and this is done for the particular month only. Because no, if the errors will be there, what I told in the commercial efficiency or the billing efficiency, there are certainly the errors will be there when we are comparing the consumption for a particular the month. But whereas billing or the meter reading is done on the distributed dates, ranging from the 1st of the month to even 25th of the month. So for that, I have also taken the step to reduce the billing period from 1st to 15th only. And also, we have taken some important step in the previous month. We are taking the cumulative reading of the meter, cumulative reading in the consumer installation, that is billed in the billing. So even though if we go manually, if we go in the on the 10th of itself, if you read the meter, instead of taking the cumulative and the billing data, if you take the billing means the reading at the end of the month, so that gives the exact consumption during the previous month. So that is also we have tried, and let us see, in the last month we have tried it, and we will see the result. And in most of the cases here, this photo billing is also done, and the distribution transformers metering is also done properly. See, out of around 1,40,000 DTCs, out of 1,46,905 DTCs in the CESC area, the metering, DTC metering is required, because no, some the DTCs are on the IPSET feeder, where the IPSET feeders are separately they are actually segregated. Only IPSETs come on that feeder. There we need not have the DTC level metering in that, because no, entire energy consumption of the IPSETs is measured in the beginning itself at this station itself. So in some cases, the DTC metering is not required. That comes to around 89,192 transformers. So out of this one, already 51,257 DTCs are metered, and metering is, and the reading is also done manually. But what our Srinivas Murthy sir told, it is to be properly digitized. The digitization is not taken. That in that way we will actually proceed for that. So all these DTCs are metered, and the readings are also taken, and the energy loss calculation is also calculated based on the digitization. And the only the scope in the CESC area, just in order to concentrate on the CESC area, the role of digitization in the DISCOM operations is a must first, because now all the meters are to be first digital meters. If we first the digital meters are installed, because still we have many electromechanical meters still in the field, and we are replacing them by the digital meters. Already around 85% of the installations are already provided with the digital meters. Hardly 15% are left, and we have already given the award for replacement. But because of the slow progress of the agency who has taken that, so that process is slow. But anyhow, we are going to complete it by another year or so. So all the installations will be provided with the digital meters. That's okay. But the digitization of the whole operation itself is to be considered. I give first preference to this field because no, the billing efficiency and the collection itself wholly dependent on the reading taken, whether the proper reading is taken or are there any errors in the meter reading. And certainly there are manual errors, because no, if you give to the human people, human errors certainly creep in. So that is why digitization of all the meters first is the foremost, and we must concentrate on this one. Once all the digital meters are installed, we can have the possibility of reading it, automatic meter reading. We can also implement in that, or some other way we can do it, or even we can read the meters through handheld machines, avoiding the human error. So that also can be done, and in that also we can take the billing BKWH, that is the billing, means the end of the month reading can be taken, and the calculation or the all the billing calculation, everything can be correctly done, and in that case the error certainly will be minimized, and even the system improvements can be done in case of reducing the technical losses. In that also, the in CESC area we have taken so many steps in improving the technical losses, in reducing the technical losses. We have replaced the conductors, we have provided so many distribution transformers, added so many distributions. Almost every year we are adding around 10,000 distribution transformers to the network. For the last 5 to 6 years we are doing the same thing. So this is happening, sir. And with all these things, certainly the CESCOM now, CESCOM is CESC is in a correct path. It's going, and I don't think the last question, that is the privatization, is needed in the CESC area. That I can tell you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your answer. I think it is very encouraging to note that 51,000 DTCs are metered in your in the CESC area, and of course, it can be digitalization will make the control over the distribution infrastructure much better. Thank you, sir, for your answer. I will turn now to BESCOM, and I'll request Mr. Nagarajia and Mr. Anil Kumar D'Souza. Mr. Nagaraj is the GM Energy Audit at BESCOM, and Mr. Anil Kumar D'Souza is the GM IT. Sir, you are very you are looking after exactly the areas that we are talking about today, and we like to benefit from your opinion. And I'll repeat here, it is of course the questions are there for you to answer, but it is the first three from the DISCOM perspective that I'm looking towards you for you to share your experience, basically on the role of digitalization in DISCOM operations. What are the challenges and how to accelerate the process? Over to you, sir.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Anil D'Souza here. It's my pleasure to be discussing this subject along with you all. Well, as rightly said, digitization in the DISCOM operation is a key requirement, and as you are all aware, DISCOM has done strides in this. From 98, the computerization activity has started, and we have now at BESCOM have a complete distribution automation system where 11 kV is completely automated. GIS is implemented across all DISCOMs of Karnataka. We are now in the advanced stage where we are planning the futuristic technology like smart metering, and it could be data analytics. Large amount of data has been collected. Now the question is like, to look at the answers for our revenue accountability through fraud analytics. These are our now next level thinking that, so we can implement and play around with the data to fetch the right answers. So digitization has brought in a kind of discipline into the system, and has enabled us develop a lot of data which now we have to turn into and give meaningful information so that management are able to lead in the right direction and take right decisions at the right time. So that is the key role that helps for any DISCOM to make the most prudent decision at the right time. So some of pilot projects also we have been taking in looking at what is the best way we ease out with our operations. So this brings in the next question, that what are the challenges that we are facing? As we all look, the vastness of our area. I mean, if you take one feeder, some of our feeders are literally 25, 30 kilometers also, which are running deep into the rural areas. And the data updation is the real most important activity that has to happen. The data without getting updated, it becomes like a junk which is not giving us any meaningful information. So the timely inputting all the data with all the changes that are happening on the field. So we have all implemented some of the check and balance features which are there, which are interconnected with the asset that is getting integrated into the system and at the GIS level on which we have to energize the system. But at all the levels, we are not able to implement because some of the areas are there which we need to energize immediately. The simple example is IPSec, still we are not able to meter because of various challenges. As far as the DTCs, EMR has been happening from the past literally 8 years, wherein 1 lakh plus meters are read remotely and the data is being fetched and compared with the SCADA, which is giving us a feeder input through the KPTCL. We are having the energy audit reports which are being generated and getting this consolidated so that we try to identify the loss. Now the next area that, as I rightly said, is how to deep dive into this information and check where are the areas which are the lost pockets identification and try to improvise in that area what should be done. So that is one. And the second main other aspect is the urban, like basically Bangalore customers are far more demanding than any other area. So the minute the power goes off, they are like in a process of just blaming that DISCOMs are not doing anything. So in that direction also we have moved some strides. We are planning to have some voice bot, conversational bots, which we have just tried some testing so that we can respond actively and very fast to the consumer, so that we address. DAS has already been implemented, which is at the 11 kV level, wherein we are trying to reduce the fault area to the least minimal possible location, isolating the fault area from the healthy areas. So we have been moving strides. We have a very good call center which works 24/7, addressing all the customer needs. So it is a challenge held front in of us, but yes, we have gone strides ahead to try to meet the aspiration of the consumers, and this data what we are having has helped us to analyze many more things. So I would like to place here, these are the information from our side what we have done.
Can I make a comment, Mr. Nath?
Sure, sir.
Yeah.
Sure. Go ahead.
You see, I would like to compliment both CESC and BESCOM in one particular matter. Apart from the excellent service both the companies are providing to consumers, we are now discussing not consumer service so much. That's another important subject, but how to reduce your losses, how your company can be helped. Now, one simple method KERC has been asking the companies to say that instead of simply assessing agricultural consumption, base it on the basis of meter reading at the source of the segregated feeder. This I see from the tariff orders, the consumption of 2016 and the consumption of 2017 is compared in the tariff order of 2018 and 2019. By switching over this methodology, both your companies have reduced the agricultural consumption by 20% in 1 year. Now, this is an amazing achievement. Can we believe that agriculturists are consuming less power even after 1 year? The answer is you are measuring the power much better than you were doing earlier. So the whole question is one of measurement. So if you take the next step and making your section officers responsible for giving you account of, okay, you have supplied 1 million units during this period. I know meter reading takes place from 1st of the month to 15th or 20th, something like that. Those things happen. So you cannot exactly match day-to-day meter reading at the feeder and the consumer level, because all consumers are not read on one day. That technology will come a little later. But if you take 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, overall, the total energy supplied through a feeder must tally to at least 90% of the total bills that have been raised in that feeder, in the area of that feeder. If you find any feeder showing more than that loss, you hold the feeder manager accountable. You ask him, what are the reasons? Where is the network poor? Where is the GVP falsifying the record? You know, you can easily detect that. So this is the next trick that you need to, next practice. Having switched over to measuring agricultural consumption, as Mr. Bevin Bharat said, I don't have to install meters at the DTC level in agricultural feeders because I know what is the energy consumed. Correct. You have switched over. This has taken 4 years for CSC and others to do the project of NJY and agriculture feeder separation. Having done that, you know exactly what it is. Both your companies have reported 20% less agricultural consumption in 1 year. That itself should encourage you to go ahead and adopt the next step of making feeder managers responsible for all the power that is supplied to be billed with the allowable margin of 6 or 7% of distribution loss, or maybe at the most 8% distribution loss. C-step calculation is 4% loss up to the DTC and 4% loss from DTC to the consumer meter. Am I right, Rishu? 8% is what you have assumed. So if you allow 8%, allow 8%, 92% of the energy recorded at the feeder origin should be billed. Can you enforce that discipline? That's another suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think BESCOM has got disconnected, but I think they are trying to get back. Hopefully, we'll have them back soon. We also have a number of questions and comments from the audience, and the first one I like to pick is actually a comment. It says all issues raised are genuine, but the resolution would be of help only when we see examples being currently implemented. So it is basically I'll say to BESCOM and to CESC that we have definitely proposed some ideas like frames and GIS-based energy audit tool, and we are there to assist you in any interventions that you would like to take. If you want to take our help, we are definitely there. We'll like to assist you on that. The second, that's again a comment kind of a thing. Mr. Amarjeet Singh has basically said that we should have more smart prepaid meters if needed for scaling up deployment of smart metering in areas which have more than 15% AT&C losses. So these two questions were not really directed at anybody in particular, I'll come to a question which is raised by Mr. Milind Devre. Mr. Devre has asked that it is SERCs have made mandatory the metering for DTs, but it is still difficult for DISCOMs to provide that measurement or provide that data. So, although to an extent this has been covered, but would you like to take a second shot at it, Mr. Bevinamara or Mr. D'Souza? The metering of DTs.
Sir, metering of DT is already done. With the reading of these meters, actually, the digitization or the communication error will be there, because no, this communication network is not so healthy right now. See, in the remote areas, there will be not communication setting up, because so the thing is only those digital meters can be read. Manual things that we have. For the metering, already almost all the distribution transformers are provided with the meters, that too digital meters. But the thing is, the reading those meters is a problem now, because in the village, because our area is vast and even it is scattered, and village areas, sometimes even the distribution transformers are somewhat far away. That may be the problem, but we can do it.
Thank you, Mr.
Once the
Bevinamara. Yeah. Please continue.
once the communication is properly established, communication error we are facing a lot. Communication, even in the city area also, even in the city area, you know, the communication, the problems. That's why it is very difficult.
Okay. Thank you for the answer. So can I take the same question to Mr. D'Souza from BESCOM, because you said while answering the first few questions that your area is really different. BESCOM has it's more of a urban population, and so do you also face communication challenges, or what are the challenges in the mandatory meeting of DTs? I mean, why?
As rightly said, we have kind of almost metered all our distribution transformers, and any new distribution transformer that comes up is going along with the meter. The challenge are on two fronts. A, when there is sometimes when the meter gets burnt out, or sometimes that replacement sometimes becomes a challenge. B, when the communication failure happens, that re-establishment of that communication sometimes becomes a challenge because of the remoteness or the urban. That is not a issue, but the communication, sometimes we have a lot of issues which goes on. So getting the meter accurately, the data from the meter, it becomes a issue always. So, but the reread is always there. Sometimes it gets little later, but the issues always remain that though meters and modems have been provided, reading sometimes becomes difficult.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that answer. I think Mr. Devre has got that answer. Then I'll come to another question that is by Mr. Amarjeet Singh. Increasing collection, I'll just give me a minute. This is, yeah. Smart prepaid meter as service model can save on metering, billing, collection expenses. And yeah, that's more like a comment, so I'll just read it out. Smart prepaid meter as service model can save on metering, billing, collection expenses, along with increasing collection efficiency by making these self-sustainable. I think Mr. Amarjeet Singh is talking about meters where we can take readings directly with the help of a SIM card. Of course, sir, by the way, any progress on this kind of meters in your areas? You already have smart meters, but those which can be read remotely, Is there any progress on those lines?
See, for that I can comment. 25,000 meters.
For temporary, not for
CESC area. We are actually reading through remotely all the installations almost, but the problems we have faced is the problem in the meter itself. Some of the meters are actually not communicating, or maybe a problem itself in the meter. Those meters are being replaced. That is the one point. The thing is that the communication, sometimes communication failure is there, either to the hardware problem or the network problem. But anyhow, the percentage this one communication establishment is around 70 to 70%. That's all. We are not achieving more than 90%. That is the problem here. So that's all. Already we are getting the remote, the smart meters also. Smart meters are already installed in the CESC area.
Thank you, sir. From BESCOM area, what is your experience on these meters?
Yeah, in addition to what CESC has already done, some smart metering also has been carried out in CESC. And whereas at BESCOM, we have carried out around 80,000 prepaid metering. So that model is working. But going on the smart metering front, as we all aware, it's a complete holistic vision that has to be taken at a very high scalability level, so that tomorrow I should be able to expand it to all the consumers, or whatever consumer I add it on the smart metering. So with this regard, some thought process and brainstorming is happening at the boardroom level, and I think so subsequently we might be taking a call on the smart metering front.
That would be great, sir. Thank you for the information. We are already running very much, beyond the schedule, almost 20 minutes. But I still have one question that I want, that has been answered by Rishu in the system to the person concerned. But I think more people will be interested in this answer. How do you separate technical versus commercial losses? It's only how in the software, the GIS-based energy audit tool. People may just want to know that. Rishu, can you answer that again?
Hello.
Yeah,
Yes.
can you?
Yeah. So what we have tried to do in this system is that we calculate the overall losses for the feeder based on the energy input that is received at the feeder and the energy consumption at the consumer end. So once we have the overall losses from these two parameters, then we take the technical parameters of the feeder, which are related to line length, the feeder line length, 11 kV line length, the number of transformers that are connected to the feeder, what is the type of conductor used in the feeder, and the type of loading for the distribution transformers, and also the peak load or peak current in the entire feeder. So based on these technical parameters, there is a format available from KERC to calculate the technical losses at 11 kV line. So once we have these losses calculated, technical losses, then we subtract the technical losses from the overall losses that we have from the energy input and energy consumption. This again gives us the extent of the commercial losses in the system. So as we have also heard from our eminent panelists, that technical losses are evident in the system, that when the transfer from the feeder to the consumer is happening, those losses cannot be avoided. But there should be a percentage ascribed to the technical losses in the system, and that would help us to minimize the commercial losses. So the commercial losses should not go beyond 1 to 2% in the network, and this should, the AT&C losses practically should be only the technical losses in the system without any commercial. I would take Mr. Bevinamara's the thing, commercial inefficiencies in the system should not be there.
Thank you, Rishu. I think I just wanted to be reassured of that technical losses that we have taken have a sound basis. So maybe I think if I'm permitted by the eminent panel, I like to. We have already run 22 minutes beyond the schedule. I'll request. I'll take a permission to close. As we close, I'll first like to thank Mr. Mahenjan, who was able to join us and basically be present with us as the chief guest, and for his excellent insights that he shared with us. Thank you, sir, Shri M.R. Srinivas Murthy. We have been going to you off and on for your getting your insights, and today you were able to join us. It is the first time that I'm meeting, but it's online, and we not only benefited from your insights today, but we'll continue with your permission to trouble you for more guidance in future.
Thank you very much. It's good to meet my ESCOM colleagues once again and the C-STEP also. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Manohar Bevinamara. Thank you, sir, for joining us from CESC. We were able to get your insights, and some of the numbers that you shared were really helpful. I mean, they talk about as Mr. Murthy said, Karnataka is doing very well in the distribution sector as compared to many other places, many other states. So the numbers you shared with us really enlightened us on that. And thank you, Mr. Nagarajaya, and thank you, Mr. Anil Kumar D'Souza, sir, for being there from site. Although Mr. Gowda had planned to come, but he was not able to make it at the last moment. Thank you for being with us here today, and thank you for answering all the questions. So thank you all. Last but not the least, thank you, Rishu, and the team that worked on this study, both the groundwork that was done, the tools that have been developed by the computational tools in the IT field, and of course you providing the guidance and to this team. And thank you, Jay, for overall guidance to us. So with that permission, with the permission, I like to say thanks to everybody and close this session. Thank you all.